Hello. It's been a while. Well, basically now I'm on vacation, so I can talk a little more with a camera, of course, because that's what introvert people do, right? I want to talk about feminism, right? I watched recently a Madonna video in which she basically um, revealed to the world. I don't know if it was a secret or whatever, but she was basically uh, ravished by some gangsters, I guess, in New York. And then she started talking about feminism and what it meant for her and what type of feminism she supported. Now, I don't know. It's very weird for me to understand that mentality because if from what I understand from scientific research, psychological research, people that are abused in some way, especially sexually, they seem to follow a very radical worldview about sexuality. Well, some of them go from being completely, interested in to being completely uninterested, so basically asexual, after the rape. And other people have the opposite effect. In other words, they become more promiscuous, more interested in sexual experiences, etc. Perhaps even reaching nymphomania. Okay, so what is the problem with the argument that she presented, Madonna presented in her speech for Woman of the Year. I don't remember what type of event it was, but it was obviously something very focused on women and therefore perhaps feminism. Um, well, the faulty argument put forward by feminists is basically uh, based on the idea that men are evil in some way, right? And that women are always victims. This is, of course, fucked up because actually they themselves become sexists by denouncing men and by not accepting that there are good men, with good morals, um, as opposed to the friends or you know quotation marks friends that they had. So, you know, people, whether they are young, old, women, men, um, choose your sexual orientation, choose your skin color, choose your race. Um, there will always be bad and good people. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's no correlation between women and, for example, puritanical sexuality, and there's no correlation between man and aggressive behavior. Wait, I take that back. Man and aggressive behavior, yes, there is a correlation because men have to compete for women in traditional evolutionary biology. But I don't believe too much in the part of evolutionary biology which talks about psychology, which is basically unprovable, right? How can you prove certain behaviors from bones found in an archaeological site? Very difficult, right? If not impossible. So they can only conject, but not conclude with too much assurance. So with a lot of assurance. So you know, the idea that there are evil men sounds like conspiracism, and the idea that there's a patriarchy that controls women is actually the opposite effect. It is counterproductive to feminism or to what they propose as liberating women from the paws of evil men. It actually creates the opposite effect of what they want because they basically propose women as victims and not being able to solve problems. Now, of course, at the end, Madonna says that she wants to empower women by giving them the idea of, associating themselves with powerful women. There are, you know, forward pushing, that are extroversial, that are passionate, that aren't afraid of conflict. That's correct. It's nice to be inspired, but at the end, you're really not giving a good example. I mean, Madonna is a woman that has shown a lot of, sexually explicit concerts, uh, and the problem is that the message is not clear. I mean, what is your message exactly? I know that artists uh, interpret it by people in different ways, and sometimes the opposite effect of what the artist could actually uh, be suggested by the art piece. So uh, you know you know uh, an opposite effect, a counterproductive effect could happen, and you know people might start slut shaming you, what you call slut shaming, what I would call normal, disapproval of certain behaviors. But you can, people could avoid using the term slut. Now, I use it in my Facebook posts and my social networking on the internet, because I want to emphasize on my disapproval of it, not because I want to discriminate people. But I'm trying to find a way to say it in the most natural way, but at the same time that describes what I want to say. So if I say promiscuous woman, does it denote disapproval? No, I'm just being neutral. But if I say slut, then it denotes disapproval. So, but at the same time, I don't want to discriminate. So it's very difficult to choose a correct word for that behavior. So that's a problem. It's a problem about language. It's not a problem. Well, it's obviously social, because people transform words into different connotations. So perhaps initially slut wasn't negative, and then it became slowly. Perhaps from a time of promiscuity, of social acceptance of promiscuity, it was an okay term, and then came the puritanical period, and it became a negative term, and then back again to promiscuous behavior. Society doesn't accept the term, or makes it have a negative connotation. So it's a language problem, it's a social problem. I don't know, but the point is, the message has to get through, right? Why do I disapprove promiscuous behavior? Well, you have 7 billion of humans on planet Earth. Can, planet Earth sustain 7 billion people? No, right? Clearly, no. Scientists have clearly figured out that if we continue the consumption rate that we have today, we would easily um, exterminate all resources within a few years, within a few decades. We are based on fossil fuels, which are basically finite, just like any other thing in the planet. But energy transforms itself. So from potential energy to kinetic energy to any other form of energy, temperature, etc. It transforms, but petroleum itself is being finished, is being exhausted by the industry today, and we use agriculture, which is extremely harmful to the forests, and we depend on forests for the purification of the air, of absorption of CO2 from the atmosphere into the trunks of the trees, etc. So all of those things that are very complex and that scientists have explained many times have all to do with sexuality. Believe it or not, people that reproduce a lot are a problem, because they are exhausting even faster. They're exacerbating the problem of overpopulation. And by overpopulation, I don't mean that people don't fit in planet Earth. They obviously fit physically, but what doesn't fit in planet Earth, on planet Earth, is uh, agriculture that is necessary to sustain uh, humans in this planet. So that is a problem. That is the main problem. So see how I can relate sexuality with how people live in the planet as a general term, as a general idea. This is a very serious problem, and nobody talks about it. I mean, the old just want to talk about. Sorry for this movement, but my legs are starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable. So it's a real problem. Um, that everybody wants to talk about freedom, but nobody wants to talk about responsibility. That's very serious. So a woman like Madonna, that perhaps is a role model for many, especially American young women, shouldn't behave in a way that is very irresponsible, right? Like sexual libertinism, not exactly the best idea for uh, population growth. What other problems? Venereal diseases. Well, people like me that can't find a girlfriend because they're all like, promiscuous, or you have convinced them to become basically unloyal, and perhaps they were genetically predisposed to that. I don't know, but you're not helping. That's the point. So um, all those factors are not taken into account by feminists. They all talk about the same conspiracy type of argument in which men are the culprits of all evil in this planet, which is a complete lie. There are black widows out there. There are women, psychopathic women that just take advantage of men, like gold diggers. Women that marry for money. There are, women that gossip, that are malicious, that want to destroy marriages, families. Why don't why don't you talk about that, feminists? Why don't you denounce that to show at least a little bit of impartiality? All right, if you want to be taken seriously. So, I mean, I could talk about feminism for my entire life and not finish because it's a huge topic. I mean, you saw how I gathered, or I joined two forces. I mean, sexuality and ecology, and I could do that for a long time. Um, but I don't want to bore you. So, in conclusion, I want to say that I'm very disappointed with Madonna, as a figure. I don't like her music at all. She's not Freddie Mercury, who was a libertine, or at least he was a professed homosexual. He got AIDS, and she talked about that some of her friends died because of AIDS. I guess one of them was Freddie Mercury, one of the greatest uh, singers in human history. Um, what else? I don't know. There are many people that are good and have a alternative sexuality. Elton John. Who else? Boy George. Uh, there are many of them like that they're extremely talented, but not you, Madonna. I mean, I'm sorry, but your music is really bad. And your choreography is good, I guess, but the topics are just downright offensive. They're provocative, and they don't provoke deep thought. They just provoke disgust, and you're not helping yourself. Now, about the rape, that was something terrible that should never happen. But why did you decide to give so much power to sexuality when, because of sexuality, or the abuse of sexuality, you got raped? You know, it doesn't make any sense, right? If you, I don't know, if somebody and it burns you and then you become a fan of fire, it doesn't make any sense to me. But you know, whatever. Abused minds can have many types of paths that are not predictable and perhaps go against the expectation. Madonna, you should really uh, try to change your circles and try to speak with people that don't agree with you, like me. I know you're never gonna watch this video, but you should basically try to think a little bit outside the box of feminism. Feminism is a very dangerous ideology. Like I said, you say it's only about women's rights, but it's actually a little bit more. It's like male hatred, right? Hatred towards males. It's about perhaps even abusing of rights and actually becoming despotic. Perhaps it's also about abusing good men that want to marry you, and you just tell them to fuck off because, you know, your sexualities aren't compatible. You know, you're promiscuous, you're monogamous. Haven't you contemplated about that? You know, perhaps they don't want to own you, they just want to have a serious, monogamous, long-term relationship, which, I mean, at this point, thanks to liberals, it almost seems like unattainable or inhuman or unbiological, which is completely nonsense, right? Humans are monogamous, and of course, there are many sexualities, but are mainly monogamous, at least temporarily, to raise a child, which is one of the most difficult tasks that this planet poses to any living being. But I will talk about monogamy in another time. So, thanks for listening. See you later.